Okay, welcome back in. President-elect Donald Trump has not been shy about wanting to see the Panama Canal once again under the control of the United States. The canal has been under Panamanian control for the duration of the 21st century as the result of a treaty signed by then U.S. President Jimmy Carter and the Panama National Guard General Omar Torrijos in September of 1977. The treaty guaranteed that the canal would fall under Panama's control after 1999. So what do we make of President-elect Trump's ambitions to reacquire the waterway? Well, Democrat Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz of Florida didn't pull any punches during a recent appearance on CNN.
It is utterly preposterous to suggest that we are going to send our military into Panama to, quote, take back the Panama Canal. As I said, we have a treaty with Panama. We have a free trade agreement with Panama. We are no more going to take back the Panama Canal than Panama is going to come in and try to take the Mississippi River from us.
Joining me now, Jarrett Stepman, columnist for the Daily Signal. Jarrett, thanks for coming in. Real quick, just on what Debbie Wasserman Schultz said there. I think the big difference is we have the United States military. Quite different forces there. Just your thoughts on her remarks.
Yeah, and we have longstanding treaty obligations with Panama that's allowed them essentially to take control of this canal that we built, we paid for a long time ago. A great statesman said it's ours. I think it's by the grace of the American people that we gave this back, but with certain obligations that they'd have to be neutral in dealings with the United States, that they'd have to allow our shipping to go through unimpeded. But a lot of changes that have taken place in Panama, I think, are very concerning for U.S. national interests. And I don't think it's crazy to think that the United States will enforce the terms of that treaty in a country that I think is going the wrong way and turning to some of America's rivals like communist China, which is very concerning if you're an American citizen.
I'm going to talk more about the changes, but first I want to take a step back and get a little history lesson from you. We touched on that treaty in 1977, which gave the full control to Panama after 99. Elaborate why that happened, why President Jimmy Carter gave it away for a buck. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I think there was a real idea at the time that we didn't want to seem like we were an imperialist power, that we were taking control of this port. There was a lot of course, agitation taking place in Panama. The Suez Canal had been nationalized by Egypt years earlier. And so the thought was essentially is give them control of this canal and it'll kind of calm the tempers there. But things didn't really necessarily go smoothly. And in fact, there was even an invasion of Panama in 1989 under Ronald Reagan, when essentially a narco basically dictatorship took control of the country. So Panama has been fairly unstable since that time. And I think that there's very reason for concerns now in our modern era where things have very much changed. So I think some of the mentality as far as giving up the Panama Canal was wrong at the time. And I think history has proved that that really was a mistake.
What are some of those changes that we're seeing?
A big one is, I think a very important one is that in 1996, Hong Kong, a Hong Kong company took control of the ports of entry on the Atlantic and Pacific side. Hong Kong at the time was part of the British Empire. It's now devolved in the hands into China's hands. And they have exerted more and more control over those ports of entry, over the Panama Canal, which is absolutely vital to U.S. national interests, both economically and for the sake of national security. Imagine if U.S. ships are trapped on either the side of the Atlantic or the Pacific in a time of war because a Chinese company says, we don't want to let you through. Like, imagine what that would potentially do for American interests and American national defense. And so I think that's what's most concerning. I think that's the issue that President-elect Donald Trump is bringing up when he's brought up this entire issue. And I think Americans get that.
Let's switch to up north to Canada, the tariffs. Trump's talked about maybe slapping some tariffs on Canada. We know that Canadian ministers, they're in Florida today, meeting with Trump over his proposed tariffs unless Canada does a better job with the border, flow of drugs coming through. Is this the right way to go about it, making tariffs, using them?
Yeah, I think this is part of Trump's negotiating style with other countries. He sees tariffs as a legitimate tool to use in negotiation with other countries. I think Trump hopes that he'll have a regime in Canada that will be favorable to the United States, that will accept the demands of our treaties. We've had a good relationship with Canada in the past. I think There are a lot of reasons to think that the country may have gone the wrong way, and especially in the last 10 years. I think this is Trump simply trying to get a better deal for Americans and ultimately create a better relationship between us and Canada in the long run. So, yes, a lot of this is, I guess you could say, trolling, but I think it does serve a good purpose for our national interests.
Or Canada becomes the 51st state. That's a joke. I'm kidding. All right. Jarrett Stepman, thanks for coming on. Good to see you tonight.
Thank you very much, Bob.
Okay. The illegal migrant from Guatemala accused of setting a sleeping woman on fire aboard a New York City subway has been indicted on charges of first and second-degree murder as well as arson. The alleged crime took place Sunday morning at the hands of 33-year-old Sebastian Zepeda Khalil as the train was approaching the Stillwell Avenue station. The suspect then allegedly fanned the flames with a shirt as the woman was burning on the train. A brief court hearing took place today, though Zepeda Khalil was not present. Now, outside of the courthouse, Brooklyn District Attorney Eric Gonzalez made these remarks.
Murder in the first degree carries the possibility of life without parole. It's the most serious statute in New York State law, and my office is very confident about the evidence in this case and our ability to hold Zepeda accountable for his dastardly deeds. It's a priority for me, for my office, for the police department to identify this woman so we can notify her family of what had happened to her.